Welcome to Toffee TV. Super League chat. It is everywhere. Everywhere you've had to be living in a box or somewhere else to avoid what has gone on in the last 48 hours. Joined by Paul Mathew from the Redmen, who is obviously one of the Super Six supporters. No, he's not. He's not. He's far from it.
Doesn't feel very super. Yeah.
No. I mean, Paul, listen. Me and Ped have done stuff on this from one of the 14. We like to call it, having the moral high ground. We're not one of those clubs. Yeah. No, but I mean, from your perspective, Liverpool are obviously embedded in this idea. Yeah. Not so much the supporters, and as Jurgen Klopp said last night, not so much the players or the manager, but Liverpool Football Club through their owners have gone into this.
Jurgen pointed out right, and it's mad to think of it because I think we do this a lot where we go like the club. We talk about the club like it's almost one person. Yeah. We know there's loads of people that make it up, but we go the club and like as though everyone's on the same page. And you like to think they are. You like to think there's unification. And my God, I genuinely thought there was through Liverpool. Like for the first time in the longest time. When you consider like when we started doing Redmen, we turned on our YouTube channel. I think Rafa Benitez got sacked like the weeks we started, and then all the ownership process really kicked into high gear around there. So like for the first time in ages, we've come out of that. And we've built up, and it felt like there was a genuine unification between like what the owners had genuine interest in making us a competitive sporting force. They've gone and got the best manager available. Yeah. They've backed him in a way. They've increased the wage bill to make sure you can keep your players and stay competitive in all the things. And they've delivered silverware, and you've engaged with the fans. You know what I mean, and all the things that. I know that you take the piss out of, like, but like the cultural things, what I mean. They've been catching up to Everton in the community in terms of what Liverpool LFC Foundation have been doing in terms of the local community, and again engaging with the fans and how they promote the culture of Liverpool through the songs and the flags and the banners and all that kind of stuff. And then you realise that it's not us. There's no Liverpool fan that wants this. There's probably no Liverpool player that wants this. The Liverpool manager doesn't want it. The coaching staff don't want it. None of the staff that work at the club, none of the casual workers who work in the shops and there's the stewards, none of these people want it. So it's like 2 or 3 fellas who live in Boston who think this is a boss idea, and they are sat on their yacht somewhere or in their panic room probably, and are waiting for some reason for this to. I don't know what they're waiting. I don't know where they are. I've no idea what the silence is deafening at the minute, like, because it's mad. It's genuinely mad.
There was a statement from Billy Hogan yesterday, wasn't there? He was Liverpool's CEO.
There wasn't a statement from Billy Hogan. There was an internal email to members of the staff. And somebody's given that out to the press. Someone said, here's what we've been sent. So Billy Hogan addressed all the internal staff and said a lot of the stuff that's in the main statement, but also said, like, there's more information to come and we think this is the best, blah, 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 and we'll reveal more. And they were meant to have a town hall meeting, which is when you get all of your employees together in one place and your leader stands on a podium or whatever and explains it. Like Peter Moore explained this when he came in. He did a similar thing when he took it down to into the Baltic Triangle, and he got hired a big building out and got everyone in one room, and this was going to be over Zoom, and apparently that got cancelled today. So there's been no we've just done a show with Rory Jennings and Robbie from Arsenal Fan TV and a bunch of the other lads who are fan channels of the clubs, and they all said the same thing, which is mad. Like, we've heard more from Joel Glazer. Like, there's a statement on all of our club websites about this, and it's Joel Glazer fronting it. What's that all about?
As a fan, and a match-going fan like yourself, I mean, what in terms of the premise of it? Do you see a situation? You see, from our point of view, when we look at it and go, right, okay, listen to Florentino Perez last night just waffling nonsense as far as I'm concerned, and everybody else who was engaging with stuff we were putting out on the Footy Show channel and stuff like that. Loads of Liverpool fans and United and that were all like, oh my God, what is he talking about? Because some of the stuff, there's only the 12 are the only important clubs and everything else. But as a fan of someone who's obviously brought up in this system, this pyramid system, and this thing of you building, you're rewarded. If you do well, you win trophies and you get into Liverpool European Cup, which is obviously very dear to Liverpool fans' hearts. Things like that. To then have this other tournament put there, you don't have to qualify, ton of money's thrown at you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the party that goes, oh, well, that's all right, because it means we don't have to worry. And we've got loads of money.
Look, I'll be honest, there's a little part of you that goes, I'm happy that Liverpool, sounds mad, you have to bear me out on this. I'm happy that Liverpool are in the room when the conversations are happening, because I wouldn't have wanted a world, and I'm sure, I don't know whether you have thought about it this way, but there's a hurt to not be involved in some respect. Now, I'm sure you've made up. You mentioned like almost the moral high ground in this, and God, I'd love a bit of that right now. Love a bit of that. We've called us like High Horse FC for so long. No, we like, we've been on the wrong side of so many massive, conspiracies and horrible decisions and that kind of stuff. We don't like to be the baddies, you know what I mean? As much as we pit ourselves as that against each other and whatever. I'm happy that Liverpool, if the so-called big clubs are trying to do things, trying to make changes, I'm happy for Liverpool to be in those rooms, because you want to be in them, and that's the point. You want to be considered a big club, but what they've done is it's just wrong. It's just a stage too far, and I get it. Like, I'm sure from Real Madrid and Barcelona's perspective, what they're saying is just the truth. You know what I mean? Because that's the way La Liga is. And Atletico Madrid have now kind of come up or whatever. But there's the two big clubs, and they are the most important clubs to La Liga. Make no doubt about it. But the Premier League is the most competitive league in world football. The top two divisions are the two best two divisions in footy. That's all of football, and it's because of the fact that it's open, and because of the fact there's more to it. And I think there's a little part of it on paper that go. I mean, look, my take on this is you've got a bunch of billionaire sociopaths, and they've been listening to fans. And we all say this, by the way, fans of every club. They say, we want to be in top four. We want to be in top four every year. And we want to buy the biggest players, and we want to be able to compete at the highest level, and we want to buy Kylian Mbappe. And when those players move, we want our football club to be in for them. And I know you've had these conversations ever since Bashiri come in. Who are we in for? What are we spending the money on? What players are we going for? It goes back to Chelsea getting it when that summer where they bought everyone. And it was mad and exciting, and City buying Robinho, and everyone's got that nostalgised version of that. But we're all complicit in this. We all kind of wanted this, and I feel like they've gone, okay, what is it the fans want? Well, fans want to be in the top four every season. Okay, well, we'll box that.
Yeah.
And they want to be able to buy all the best players. Okay, well, we'll box that as well. And what else do they want? Oh, they want to be... And it's like this Super League is born of like listening to words but not understanding tone. Which is a sort of very sociopathic sort of tone. If someone's on the spectrum and doesn't understand human emotions and that kind of stuff in that regard, I genuinely feel like that this is what's going on. I think these owners think that I think they believe in it. I don't think they think they're doing an evil thing. I just think they're so detached from reality that they just blindly believe that their way is the right way, and they're doing, from their perspective, they're doing right by their football clubs. But they don't realise there's more to doing right to your football clubs than just filling a spreadsheet.
I think, Phil, like you talk about La Liga there and what Perez is coming from, but they've made that league so they are the only important ones, because they took 51% of the money. And the other 49% is divided up between 18 clubs. So you've got Atletico Madrid have done a really good job of trying to bridge it. They're in there again. But that's one club. You're not... The rest of it have got no chance of competing, which is why a lot of people have switched off from La Liga, because it is Barca.
Well, you had Deportivo had a little time in the sun, didn't they, in the early noughties, and Valencia came up as well.
Sevilla had a little couple of years.
Little poke, but they've mainly been like picking up on the fringes, you know what I mean, picking up Europa Leagues and what have you. But ever since they changed the weighting of the TV deal in Spain, it's Barcelona and Real Madrid have the lion's share, and that's why no team will ever come up and really and dominate. There'll never be more than the three.
No, because of that thing. And you're right. I think for me, the common denominator with it all from the outside perspective is obviously American owners, and you've got Andrea Agnelli at Juventus, who's obviously American. He's been the fourth runner almost in this as well, because he was so embedded in the Champions League, and he was trying to get a lot of reforms through, which kind of was this in the Champions League. It was like, well, these are the biggest clubs and we need them in it, so we want guarantees within it, which for me, my person, I have the injustice thing. It really annoys me, injustices I can't cope with. It really gets me back up. And therefore, I don't mind if you give a pot of money to everyone and people spend it better than you've got. We know that as Evertonians. Yeah. If you do well and you're rewarded, there was those T-shirts Leeds had on last night warming up against Liverpool. The message is right on there. If you're the best, you should be rewarded.
The message is half right on there, by the way. I think this is what people are missing in all of this. Like, why did the Champions League get a bunch of free advertising off Leeds United last night and all this? But the messaging
is right. One thing we've got to be careful of is coming down on the side of UEFA and the Premier League, because they're complicit in this, and other people are the good guys in this because they're just not the worst guys in this. That's the thing what you've got to come down on. But I think from that perspective of, I don't mind, like I said before, you build your team and you get rewarded with it. No problem with that. No problem with that at all. But when you're getting rewarded for playing in a competition that means you're in it every year, so therefore it means, and yet you still want to stay in the Premier League. And I spoke to Chris about this yesterday, and it was like, well, if that was the case, and Liverpool were playing in this Super League, and that was deemed a more important fixture to us, why would we be bothered playing any? If we can't win the league, what difference does it make then for Liverpool if they finish second or 16th in the Premier League? It means nothing. So therefore, you got a situation where you're playing reserves on a Saturday in a Premier League.
We've been seeing this for years. If you've got a massive, we haven't really seen this as clearly, because the way fixtures have fell for us in the last few years is we've actually had a lot of big league games in between big Champions League games. But we actually saw it the other week where we played Leipzig and we played Fulham before it, and we put a load of what would you class as second stringers who've played a lot of games for us this season because of injuries. But you already rotate. Now you do it for cup games, but to be fair, you do prioritise competitions when you just do it. It's a natural thing. But you're dead right. And it's tough because we're talking about it. We're fighting for something that's shit. The idea of top four is shit. Yeah. And the second they opened the doors to the Champions League, they fucked it all and they damned us to this path. Yeah. Because the second you made the Champions League a competition that isn't exclusively entered by champions of their domestic leagues, well then what's the difference between, because people were fighting for 4 places. Well, it was 3. And it was 2 and it was 1, and it was 2 plus 1 qualified, and 3 plus 1 qualified. Now it's 4 guaranteed, straight in every single time. We're fighting for this, for something that's not that great.
4's
anyway.
Become a trophy.
Exactly. And you're right, it does add to a competitive element in our league more than most. Maybe Serie A, I've got a little bit of it going on as well, because obviously you've got Lazio and Rome and AC Milan have come back to the table now, of course. But there's the competitive thing for 4th, the rewarding of mediocrity is a bit mad. But at the same time, as you're right, it's the lesser of 2 evils at this point. One point I've been trying to make on this is that, because this is what the silence is what I find most crazy about this, and there'll be something where there'll be an information, it's got all the hallmarks of the government, teasing things out behind a paywall in the Times, and then they have a press conference on the Monday, and then everyone goes, what about this, and this, and then they have another one 2 days later where they've listed everything, and they've gone and found answers to all these problems, is that if this is a protest to how UEFA are running things and how FIFA are running things, that is a perfectly valid concern. It was something Jurgen Klopp was trying to bring up pre-match. He's like, you just added 100 games to the Champions League and said, we're just adding it. We're adding 100 games to the Champions League. They're moving the Club World Cup from a winter tournament to an end of season tournament every year. They want 24 teams in the Club World Cup every single year. Every year. And a post-season tournament, club tournaments. That's just going to happen. FIFA are just going to go, we're having this.
That's what we're doing, yeah.
But someone else is, and the problem is, and this is not me defending the Super League, but let's if it wasn't a closed shop, what was it? They fucked it because it's a closed shop. Yeah. It's not even worth having a conversation about it. It's the most pointless, invalid tournament suggestion ever. Who's ever going to support that? Who's ever going to get behind that? And it's just shit. It's just shit and stupid. I was doing to the lads of the fans of the other 6 teams or the 5 teams to us, and I had to say Everton, because, you know, if Mashiri had come in 20 years ago, you'd be in that now. You'd be one of them clubs. I'm not saying you would have accepted it. No, but
I couldn't sit here and say they wouldn't.
Exactly. Chelsea are in there because of the timing in which their money came in, and Man City are in it because of the timing in which their money came in. Yeah. I mean, that's
the biggest thing. Why Spurs?
Your money came in during FFP when you weren't allowed to flex your muscles to do it because you were hampered by FFP, and then the ladder's been pulled up on you.
What do you think? Say, how do you think this will play out then? Because obviously at the moment we're all guessing, aren't we? We're all going, they'll be expelled or this competition won't happen. I've seen something today that said, well, if you let us decide how the Champions League is, we'll stay. It was a source close to this, which again is just like saying, well, we'll actually decide what we're doing. So, I mean, what out of those three scenarios, what do you think can happen?
I'm having to prepare for the worst, and the worst case scenario is these owners dig in, and they go no because they've signed contracts and they're going to die on this hill because they haven't got the humility to back down.
Right.
I'm looking around.
So do you think it'll?
Mate, I am terrified. I am genuinely terrified that my football club is about to get expelled from domestic football. And look, let's put the tribalism aside. There's a little bit of like, God, I mean, look, I was a kid when you were going through, when Gareth Farrelly saved you from relegation the last day. And there's a little part amongst us like, wouldn't have been funny if you went down, ha, 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 ha. Nobody wants that, and there'd be a lot of schadenfreude where you'd probably get a degree of enjoyment to see us go through it because like you've not had your noses rubbed in things for 20 years or whatever. But like nobody doesn't want the derby, and I can't fathom because of how they're talking about this, and because, let's be honest, and this is not related to this incident because they're mutually exclusive events, but because I have been wrong on every general election, I was wrong on Brexit. I thought like intelligent discourse and a bit of common sense would prevail. Except I had the Lib Dems give me vote to the Tories. I had the Tories get in over Labour. And I had Brexit go against that. So when I look at this,
Trump become president,
and I'm now looking at going, this shouldn't happen because nobody wants it. Nobody wants it. This isn't a Liverpool issue or a City issue or a Spurs issue. Yeah. Or, you know, and this isn't 14. The other 14 clubs are like, it's all used. It's like, it's nothing to do with us. They've not consulted us. We don't want this. No one asked us. If you asked us, we'd say no. It's as simple as that. Put it to a vote. Nah. Like, I mean, you get in trouble sometimes when you put things to vote, as we've discovered. But, you know, there's not a football fan in this country who wants this. But I am terrified that these lunatics who've let the mask slip finally, permanently, forever. They've ruined football no matter what, and I am embarrassed. And that the worst thing about this is no matter what happens, it's the embarrassment that they've caused to us as fans. Why are we like? Because people, I mean, like I know it's my job to talk about Liverpool and stuff. I've made that for myself, but you'd be asking your Liverpool mates, regardless of all this, what are you doing? What's going on? I haven't done anything. I've not done. Jürgen Klopp's going like we're asking. Unfortunately, it goes to the fans. The fans will rise up. They'll put pressure on the players and the managers, and we'll all put pressure on the owners. And it needs to come from all angles. But my thought on this when it leaked on Sunday was, it's just hardcore bargaining. This, it's just brinksmanship. Yeah. It's just because the way it is now, UEFA takes far too much of the pie for what it does, for what it contributes to it. Yeah. It's a close, and you know, I mean, we don't really think of it this way. It was a great point Chris made the other day. Is like they've got a monopoly. It's a cartel in themselves. Yeah. If you don't want to sign up to us, and you don't want, there's no alternatives. You can't go. If you go in any other business, you can go and shop around. You can go and work somewhere else. You can go and ply your trade in other places. Yeah. You can't move leagues. You can't go and play. We can't go and play in Spain if we wanted to, and you can't go and play in another European league, as we've now discovered, because they won't let you do it. Yeah. So you've got it. It's their way or the highway. And I there's some major reform issues that need to happen with UEFA, but this is not that.
No, because it's closed. Yeah. So if it was, and the other thing as well is the money. If they were saying, right, what we're going to do then, because UEFA distribute the money wrongly, so what we're going to do is create the Super League for X amount of clubs. You can get into it by qualifying, and the pot of money's divided up. I think a lot of people would have gone, is right.
100%.
Right, let's have a look. But 100%. They haven't. They're going, we're doing it, we're staying in. You might get a go, you might not, we'll see. And we want to stay in the league.
They've not even explained there's 5 teams that are supposedly going to be able to qualify on
exactly,
merit.
On merit.
What does that look like? Where are they coming from? Like, they've not even submitted any proposals that we've been able to have a look at for that. Oh. So you're never going to win. There's not even this is why they've gone about this. It's mind-boggling. This is why I'm so scared. Because they've launched this without even explaining it. They've not even said what's happening, really. They've gone, it'll happen at the nearest possible venture.
Well, if you go on their page, it's August 22, it starts. It's a 20-team tournament, 2 groups of 10, play each other twice, every Wednesday. But although they want Saturday 8 o'clock for some games, that's what they're saying, in Qatar, Dubai, somewhere else. And then when you get the top 3 in both of the 10 teams get through, then 4th and 5th play off against each other in a 2-legged game to go into the quarters. Then they're all 2-legged. By the time you finish, you're playing 30-odd games. Yeah. Now imagine trying to play 38 Premier League games as well. Obviously, you'd have to come out the FA Cup. You'd have to come out the Carabao Cup, whatever, the Carabao Cup. So, if Liverpool won it, they'd have had to have played nearly 70 games to win the thing in a season.
And you're talking even now, I think it's something like with the new UEFA Champions League reforms, to win the Champions League, you've got to play 17 games. From 2020 to 24. This is the point. It's too much footy. We saw this last season. God, the years blend, don't they? But when we went to the Club World Cup and we had to put not even the resis. We put the under-18s out in a Carabao Cup quarter final because. Where does it fit in the fixtures? We put a team. They created a winter break and then put a FA Cup replay in the winter break. So again, we played the under 18s, and that's what's So the domestic cups are goosed one way or the other because the Champions League's too much.
Too many.
So if you're in the Champions League, there's just no chance you're going to be able to put a League Cup team out of any note. It's just not going. It's just not going to happen.
But the same with this thing, though, isn't it?
Exactly. Well, that's what I mean. Is that it's whatever's happened here, footy's changed forever.
Yeah.
But you're right in terms of the reform thing. And this is why they haven't got a leg to stand on, and they look, and this is why it's so brazen and so mad. Because what are the redeeming features? Florentino Perez and coming out and saying what everyone, let's be honest, like we all kind of maybe know, but fear but don't want it to be true. There's a conceit in football because it's possible for you to start a football team. Look at #United.
Yeah,
it's Spencer Owen, YouTuber, starts up a team with his mates, founds a football team. They're in the football pyramid. Like one day they could win the Premier League and win the Champions League in the current model, which is the dream. It'll never happen, but it's the idea. It's the possibility.
Salford City,
exactly. AFC Wimbledon. All these things. The fact that you've basically gone. Look, and no surprise they're coming from Spain, as I said before, when no difference to Barcelona and Real Madrid. The last time they didn't qualify for the Champions League was 1996. So they're in the Champions League every season.
Every year, no matter what.
So they're going, well, come on, we're in there anyway, aren't we? So what's the difference whether, we're going to be in there anyway, so it doesn't matter to us. We'll do this. And they're so blinkered in their own little bubble. They think everyone feels like that. And maybe it's true, but it's definitely not true in England because literally West Ham and Leicester are in the Champions League places at the moment. And if they do it, then fair play to them because they absolutely deserve it. It's a scandal to think that that we can shut off on that, because here's my point on this, and it's the what they're creating is a system whereby football's become globalised. But you've got you still tend to support your local football team where you can. So you tend to support. So we're all from Liverpool, so we support Liverpool or Everton. But like, let's just say neither Liverpool or Everton were allowed into this Super League, you would be denied. You the chance to represent your boyhood club or support a football team that plays in this competition because you were born in Liverpool. That's scandalous. That's absolutely scandalous. Now and that's going to happen, or in all places. Why do Red Star Belgrade not? Why are they not allowed to be involved? Ajax. Why aren't
one of the greatest, European clubs?
All the German clubs now. I know they've been invited, but it's just. I just feel sick with it because again, in our darkest and bitterest moments of rivalry or whatever, you guys have us painted as the the fucking devils of football and the enemies of it. No. But and we have we don't see ourselves that way. We see ourselves as very, we look at Man United the same way that you look at us, and we look at Man City in an even worse light, and Chelsea. But we've just been revealed that any hope that we had at least some traditions, and that we were at least a football club with some form of values. It's just been a big con. The whole way. It's just been a big venture capitalist con.
Is it just because of who's the owners are? That's the thing, because they're American owners, all born into a system in America that is very much no relegation. MLS, NFL, franchises. We're in it every year, regardless of whether we win it, we get the same pot of money. My issue with it, as I said before, if the six, the sly six, the scum six, whatever you want to call them, whatever they're getting called at the moment, if those six are allowed to remain but pocket that 300 million by playing in this thing, then it's finished anyway. The whole thing is finished, because how can Everton, Leicester City, whatever, right, even compete? We're told by the Premier League, we've got a billionaire owner and another one who, whether he owns it or not, is there with a few bags of billions on his back, wanting to go, we want this play. And the Premier League are going, but you can't spend that money. You've got it all, but you can't spend it. But these six are coming in with 300 plus million from this other league. Do what you want. There's no point then. There's literally zero point.
We've got into this situation because Barcelona and Real Madrid have swung the dicks around a bit, because they're used
and they're in trouble, by the way.
And they're in massive trouble. That's the problem. Massive trouble. And it's like the banks wanting to be bailed out because the banks fucked it. And all clubs are built on sand. Every single one of them. They're built on this industry. And we saw this in the pandemic, and we had it. We had it just as fan channels. What do you do when your business is based around there being a match twice a week? And that goes away. What do you do? You're nothing anymore, are you? And so they've seen this, and they're terrified by it. But I think you're spot on. That's the thing that gets me about this. Whether it's nonsense or whatever, whether it's true or not, we've always believed there's a socialist ethos that runs through Liverpool's fans, whether it's run through the football club, and it goes back to Shankly, whether it is just a big fairy tale that we've all bought, and it certainly feels that way this week. But we don't, we all have the common values of Liverpool fans are the idea that are socialist values, and it comes from the city. We have it as a unified front in the city of Liverpool, and this is completely against all that, because it's exactly that point. What's the point? And that, again, so we're at that point because everyone's come to the table. Liverpool are in there, and Liverpool have been probably leading it more than most. So I'm not trying to create a narrative where Liverpool are innocent parties in this, or Liverpool's owners are innocent parties in this, because they're not. But you can't afford to not be in the conversation, because exactly this, and this is why it's mad when you look at it from Everton's perspective, which I think is the most interesting perspective in all of this, because by wealth of owners, your owners are wealthier than our owners. So, so you've got more spending power technically than Liverpool. If you were allowed to spend freely like Abramovich was, then exactly, Everton would be able to compete with anyone on the planet. And the idea that you're not allowed to because they've just decided you're not in this conversation. But everyone's just terrified, because again, Liverpool and FSG, they've built this model. They wanted FFP to be stringently enforced, and UEFA fucked it. They completely fucked it with Man City and PSG, and it's run and so they're now left with no choice. It's like, well, we either just get rid of these assets, which they should do, because if they can't buy into it as is, then they need to just get off from it. We'll have it back. We'll have it back on the ground floor if we want to. But yeah, the idea now that, because what's wrong with the other 14? If you've got to just have the conversation, because we're not La Liga.
What, from just a fan perspective, then, very quickly about forget all of the business aspect of it and all that. But I mean, what does it mean to you as a fan to have this? To have this uncertainty put in of, like, what is it? Like, you were playing Leeds last night. A couple of Red mates who were like, I honestly don't care, because it doesn't at this moment. It doesn't mean anything. I
never cared less about a football match. Like, I've gotten more into pre-season friendlies. Genuinely, like we could play Tranmere every year, pretty much, and I've been there, and I've sat around with a cup of tea. You know what I mean? Like, I've sat on the pitch. You know what I mean? With my phone in my hand, while they're going on. Like, I still paid more attention to that game than I did to a mattered. That was meant to matter.
Supposed to
that
be a
game
big
mattered
game,
on Saturday.
Yeah.
On Saturday night, I went to bed looking at the league table going, can't wait for Monday. That matters because if we beat Leeds,
we can beat them,
the results have gone for us so well. We're in it. We're in the driving seat here. And by the time the game rolled around, we just tried. It's impossible to get motivated for because don't know what it means. Yeah. Don't know if it matters. And there's just bigger things. We've got, we were 10 years ago, we were at this, where you have to take your eyes off the football. We just want to support our football team. We all do. We got into it because we love our football clubs. For whatever reason, we all got into it, whether you were born into it or you chose it or whatever. Yeah. You just want to be able to watch your team play footy, and if they can be good as well, great.
That's great.
If they can reward you for the money that you invest in it, then that's the perfect. And that's the most galling thing about it. I genuinely thought we got it right. We finally found the correct balance on things, and these owners have just come in and blinded, and they've in doing so completely undermined everything. And now we're going to have to go back on the barricades, and we're going to have to go pick up the pitchforks again, and it's just exhausting.
And that
is want to watch my footy team.
It's not just. I just don't think it's a big six problem either. To be honest, I know. We can have the rivalry and we've had a laugh. We've called you Tory FC and having a laugh. No, but we're just having a laugh.
But Barry, on the honestly, most basic, it hurts. No, but it hurts. But it should do. You know what I mean? It should hurt.
Yeah.
But that's the thing about it. That's like literally the worst insult. Unless you call us nonce FC, being called a Tory or a nonce is literally the two worst things you can call a human being from Liverpool. Like, and or a mank, you know what I mean? Like, a third below it. But the point is that it hurts, and I hate the fact that it's not our.
No, but that was my point. My point was, realistically, it's not Liverpool fans. No, I haven't seen any. I've seen the odd one, but not from Liverpool. Internet, and it could be anyone saying, "Oh, it's a good idea." Most football fans in this country are against it. Listen, you said before how playing Derby. I'll be honest with you, there's a bit of me that wouldn't be bothered if we never had to play it again. We won the first Derby and we won the last one. And that'll be good, we'll have that. But in general, the reality of it is the best scenario for this thing is for it to just go away, for them to find a new way to distribute the money that makes everybody happy. It shares the money out better, and we all just go back to going, right, let's get back into this fight again, a better football club. Because this is what we were brought up on. We were brought up on a pyramid.
Yeah. There needs to be an understanding, and it's hard, and I understand that not everyone will want to hear this, of course, because, again, some people we can't put aside the rivalries, and I can't imagine how, I know I would like to think I would feel on the other side of things, but I can't do that, because we're not. When I think about, like, it's not the same, but I think about when people unified over Hillsborough and there was a common understanding that any set of fans in the Leppings Lane end that would have happened to whoever was there on that day. That would have happened to any set of fans. It just happened to be Liverpool fans on that day. And people need to realise that, like, from everyone's perspective, Farhad Moshiri is not an Evertonian. No, he's not a Scouser, so he doesn't, you know what I mean? Like, and we've got for the most part, with a few obvious exceptions, we've got a bunch of billionaires who just want to see return on their investment.
Of course.
And this could happen to any one of those clubs. And as I say, it's a fair reminder that if this had happened 25 years ago, Chelsea and City wouldn't be amongst these teams. And that's the point in this, is that all fans need to get together.
This could happen 3 years down the line when Everton are at Bramley Moor and Everton are in the conversation.
Because Spurs are in the
and I'm saying to you now, and I've said this before, our owners come out today and said we'd never accept it. That's fine. And listen, I'd like to believe that in the thing, but I'm not naive enough to go, well, if we were in the conversation, it's a different conversation. He still might have gone, not sure.
Look, Everton's statement was brilliant, by the way.
It was good. And it's great and all that, but it's about a bigger picture. And when people are having a go, they're having a go at John Henry, and they're having a go at the Glazers, and they're having a go at Agnelli, and they're having a go at people at Chelsea and Man City, because they're the real puzzle in this Manchester City. The team that doesn't need money.
Do you know why Man City are in there?
For fear of missing out, FOMO, maybe.
Exactly, and that's the only reason, because they don't want to lose their competitive advantage to 5 other teams having £350 million
but then, a year. If City would have stayed, then the argument to expel the other 5 would have been stronger and would have enabled City to clock up 6 European Cups very quickly.
Oh yeah, true enough.
X amount of leagues and also with the knowledge that they will be invited in at a later date.
But when you're trying to fiddle FFP and all that kind of stuff, and all of a sudden you've got
Allegedly.
200, when you've got hundreds of millions that are lost through TV revenues from the Premier League when those 5 have been expelled, again, it's like mutually assured destruction. This is like nuclear stockpiling. What's going on? Everyone's afraid to be the one without in case they get bombed to death.
Well, that'll be the Premier League's position now, won't it? Is that we're stronger with the 6 than we are without it. But I mean,
and they should be. And I thought the Steve Parish is the
Crystal Palace
chair. I thought he spoke really well on Monday. Of like, there's no value in. I know there'll be some like people who have had the backs up over this because I mean the idea of being told that your football club's not good enough to be in this elite. That's a massive slap in the face, and that's why I feel that embarrassment of being associated with someone who have the audacity to suggest. But like, look, because we can have on sport and merit all you want,
of course.
But yous aren't any more or less deserving of anything than we are because you chose to support the other team in the city.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Fucking nonsense. Yeah. You're in the same league. You've got every right to get into the same competitions that we have. And the idea that we're somehow, because in the years prior to this, we've won a bit more.
I don't think you're the problem. I think a lot of people back it up because of Spurs, God, I'm 49. I've never seen Tottenham win a league in my life.
But it's dangerous, isn't it, to get in because it's right, because your point's entirely valid. But
then Everton would have no more merit than
Nottingham Forest or Aston Villa,
or people like that who haven't done things for years and Everton have been there.
Well, Forest won 2 European Cups. Villa won 1, and then, and they wouldn't. People don't even think they would be in the conversation for a second. Because why would they? Because Forest have been languishing down the table for years and years. But there's more historical merit to those football clubs than like Arsenal never won the European Cup. No. It's just one of those. Mate, I can't put into words how I am beyond shocked, and I shouldn't be, but this is my point: is that the depth of the ruse that they've taken Liverpool fans on is it beggars belief. It was one thing when you had Hicks and Gillette say like Spade in the day in the ground in 90 days, and then. But we know there's 50 million a season coming out in debt, in interest payments. You know what I mean? So you can see and you go, well, it's clearly lies. There's no Liverpool aren't loaded with debt. They've made a self-sustaining business model, so they're not sugar daddies. So they're not Man City coming in throwing oil money at it. You've not got owners who've got like questionable human rights backgrounds or anything like that. They've brought all the fans on side. We've got this resurgence of Liverpool fan culture at the heart of the city. Scousers going on stage in front of tens of thousands of people and all this kind of stuff. It's the best it's ever been. And the football and the manager gets it and all that. And the owners have just come in and just gone, pull the rug out from all of us. It's mad. I can't.
And no one likes instability, do they? And that's exactly what it is at the moment. Yeah. Pedro, any comments? Well, you're not going to hear. What's the general theme? To say.
Although what I will just say is,
go on, sing your mic.
There is an investment fund. It's a new champion. Say 4.5 billion divided to 7. So either way, it's not good for the rest of us. That's what I would say.
Well, as long as it's not a closed shop, but the more needs to be done, doesn't it, across the whole board? Like again, the problem is this: if you've made UEFA and FIFA look like they've got the moral high ground in a situation, then how much in the muck are you?
Then we're in trouble, aren't we?
No, it's true. And that's the thing about this. It's that's a dangerous world because we're in a situation now where people getting the 6 teams and the other 12 teams to go, actually, you know what, we won't bother going to this. That will feel like a win, and that will be a win for me. To not have that possibility of being booted out of our own country, and football and all that stuff will feel like a win. But it's not the win the football needs, regardless. But we've got this big issue that needs to be discussed. But like, there's a major pressure issue here for us that needs to be resolved first. It's massive. It's genuinely massive.
this is one that feels like it's going to run and run at the moment because, like you say, not all the information's out. There's meetings going on.
The owners haven't spoke.
Today, allegedly, the 6 clubs are saying we're committed. We've signed 23-year deals. We're not going. We're doing this no matter what. You've got UEFA saying, well, you can't because you've got the Premier League saying, hang on, Rule 9 says you can't, so you're going to have to get expelled. So. And now we've got stuff for a new Champions League.
I can't imagine.
Berserk.
I can't imagine that the Premier League would be happy to lose. Because look, like Florentino Perez is a knob, and everything he says is just horrible, and he's a horrible human being, and all those things. But there's a spreadsheet reality to what he says of like the clubs that generate the revenue, that bring the most eyes to the product, etc., etc. There's a reason why. When people kicked off about that £15 for the football game pay-per-view, and it wasn't really when it was a big game, it was when it was Burnley versus Brighton, where people went, well, who's going to, who's buying that? No one's buying that. So, there's, again, the sociopathic brain goes, you can understand all that.
But then without Osasuna and without Sporting Neon and without them, then they haven't got a competition. They've got Barcelona, Real Madrid.
And someone ends up becoming Osasuna. You know what I mean? Whatever happens, there's going to be a team that's at the bottom of the league and there's going to be a team that's at the top of the league. It's just an absolute nonsense. I can't put it any more. It's a disgrace to football. And how are we here? And how are they being allowed to get away with it?
The biggest thing about it, just to finish, because I know your head's shocker, because but there's still like 6 or 7 games left in the league, and there's still things up for grabs, and this bomb's been dropped in, and everyone all of a sudden is going, I don't know what's happening. All of a sudden, no one's looking and going, like Liverpool had a big game last night that they had to win, and they haven't won it. And yet you're sat here going, I can't even think about that.
We did a 45-minute review show. We do like after, and the same as you. We do a final word show after every match, normally an hour long. And we talked about the game for about 5 minutes. We had Flav on from the Fighting Cock. He said they did their podcast yesterday. Jose Mourinho was sacked as their manager, and it got a 2-minute segment at the end of their hour and a half long podcast because of this.
Well, that's it. I mean, that says it all. Like you said right at the start, no one's happy, and it's a disgrace, really. And it's sad for fans who have had no part in this. If fans would have been canvassed, and those clubs could have gone, listen, we've asked 10,000 Liverpool, United, bloody, and overwhelmingly they voted to go in it. Then people can have a go and go, well, hang on a sec. But the reality is, nobody knew, and 6 or 7 fellas have gone, boss idea to make some money.
This is. The best case scenario, and this is horrendous, is that this has just been a game of brinksmanship. It's just been posturing the whole time to try and force UEFA to just give up more control. Even if they win, the damage to football, to football fans, to English football is irreparable. It cannot be undone now, because no matter what happens from now on, football will never be the same. And the worst thing about it is that, and again,
and the trust's gone, hasn't it?
But there's that in this country, there's 6 whole fan bases, just loyal people who just support the football club the same as anyone. We just turn up and support them. We just happen to support one of these teams. That's all it is. None of us chose to be this the same way you didn't choose to not be one of these things. That we're now having to carry the blame and the scorn of the entire of the football world. Because a couple of billionaires decided to make these decisions.
And they're hiding in the
Let me just reiterate that news in case anyone didn't hear me before. UEFA in talks with an investment fund to create a new Champions League that would have €4.5 billion budget, which could rise to $7 billion, according to RMC, which I think are a French radio station, and Bloomberg. So there's plenty to run on this.
Yeah, it's just going to run, and there'll be different permutations and everything else. So we'll see who comes out. I wouldn't say win, because I don't think there can be a winner in this, really.
There's no one wins, but you know who loses? Fans.
Yeah. Well, that's ultimately what it is, isn't it? And like we do every single time. So there you go. Big thanks for Paul for joining. Zed is everywhere, as you can see.
Honestly, like I reached the point last night. It was like I might try having a big cry. Like I've tried everything else. Like it's not. It's probably not going to have a positive impact on this. Like, you know what I mean? But I've tried everything else.
Just to get yourself a bit of calmness in your head. Maybe it'll work. Who knows? Yeah. There you go. let us know what you think in the comment section below. Plenty of you have already, but like we said, this is a story that's going to run and run. See you later.